Hi, I'm Priya Banik, and today I'm going to speak about the subject of photography. I would like to break the notion of what photography is all about. It is a combination of arts, science, and maths. Most people think actually photography is all only about creativity. Many people actually use the human eye to shoot the frame that they actually want to shoot. And once they're satisfied and confident about that particular frame, they actually pull out their cameras and then go for the final shot. We will be teaching about what is a DSLR camera and how to work on the manual mode of a DSLR camera. We would like to break the stereotype thinking of working on a DSLR camera and working on an automatic mode, which is the most common thing that most people do. We also would like to speak about the different combinations of exposures, the different lighting techniques and directions of lighting. Photography is basically derived from the Greek words photos meaning light and graphein meaning to draw, which means you are drawing with the use of lights, which is going to teach you a combination of what is highlight and what is a shadow. So basically photography also has different genres and fields of it. So we are going to teach you the basics and foundations which will remain the same for all genres and field. But you can choose the specialization according to your own interests, which is if you want to choose like wedding photography or industrial photography, fashion photography, product photography, wildlife photography, or any of it of your own interest, you can choose, which will change the basic techniques and basic equipments that is required for each and every genre and interest. The course will give you an outlook on the industry standards, and you will also be meeting some of the most popular and the biggies in the industry, and the fraternity, the celebrities in the fraternity will be there to teach you on the ground. So we will also be helping you in building your own portfolio and what is actually required for the standard of photography, or what is required if you want to become a professional photographer and enter the field of photography. So in photography we have a lot of cameras that we use. Let's start off with the basic, the olden generation cameras, which we call as a camera obscura. It's basically a dark room which is made to look like an entire camera on its own. That's how it started off. And then there were like different variations of it which came by, and it started with those big equipments which a person used to go inside the black cloth. I'm sure most of you have probably seen it in the olden generation movies, which probably you don't really find it in the industry anymore. But yes, you do find it in museums and places which is in historic locations as such. But there are many variations and many varieties of cameras, starting from the TLRs, which is the twin lens reflex, which is again a tiny little box, to the current generation cameras which we call as the DSLRs. I'm sure most of you have heard of this, but the full form of that is the digital single lens reflex. So many photographers that I personally know and personally met have fancy DSLR cameras who don't really know how this works, working with automatic modes and different kinds of modes that are actually available. Than what you really need to work on is actually the manual mode. So here we are at Ants, who are going to teach you, present to you, show you the features of it and teach you exactly how this works, how it functions. So the guarantee basically that we give is a DSLR camera that you can work through entirely, beyond which once you finish your course on a manual mode. So the most common question that I always come up with a lot of people that I meet in my life is, what is this exposure triangle? What is this exposure composition that is combined together that brings photography in a DSLR, which is the most famous aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. However, through this video, I'm not going to speak about all the three put together. I'm going to speak about just a brief about what is ISO, which is International Standard Organization. Now, this basically means, of course, it's an organization, but this basically means it's the speed of the film, or basically the image sensor sensitivity. So when you're using a DSLR camera, the sensitivity of your image sensor of your camera is called as ISO. Now, this may sound like Greek and Latin to a lot of you. Now, just for an easier understanding and a better view of what this means is, the clarity of your picture, when you see a photograph, you see a lot of grains, you see a lot of dots and pixelation in your pictures. That means your ISO is really high. So which means if you want better clarity, you have to go for a lower ISO, which I'm sure once you start fidgeting with your camera, experimenting with your DSLR, you'll know what exactly when I say this, what it means. So it's like a 100 ISO or a 200 ISO or an 800 ISO. So you can always shift between these ISOs depending on what you're shooting, where you're shooting, and of course how much light that is already available and how much light you want the camera to read beyond it. Okay, so lighting is the key to photography. Lighting plays a very, very vital role in photography. Without light, there is no photography at all. I mean, any small source of light, it could be even a candle light or even a torch light or a bigger source of light like sunlight. So that's like the natural light source that is available. We call that as available light source. Now the artificial lights are including tube lights or any of the studio flashlights are all called as artificial lights. So I'm just going to give you a brief hint about what lighting and how does it play a vital role in photography. Lighting, there are two types of lighting that we have. We call as the key light and the fill light. The key light is basically the main source of light which gives a lot of lighting into your image, and the fill light is basically filling up the shadows which is produced by the key light. So these two play a real vital role. Behind or rather beyond this, we have many other lighting like hair light, background light, and different other sources. So through this course we'll be teaching you all the lighting directions and where which light source should come from, what are the different equipments of lights like soft boxes, umbrellas, snoots, and depending on the mood and the feel of the picture, we change these light sources. Now, talking a little bit about the feel and the mood of the pictures, we have different feel and mood to the photographs, which is produced using different filters as well. So we use different filter sources of colors, color gel papers that we call them as, or it can also be through different lights like bandos and snoots, which can produce either harsh lights or softer light sources like octa lights and softboxes lights. So towards the end of this course, you can speak the same language that we speak through this program. So this is a guarantee that we are giving you that, lighting is the most important source and we'll help you through this entire program. This course and program is also going to cover a lot of post-processing techniques. When I say that, we call them as Photoshop or Lightroom, and understanding the different color corrections and lighting techniques that can be added on in the post-process level. Now, most of you, I'm sure, have these applications or apps on your mobile, which you call as different filters, right? Or, sepia tones and different tones that you can add on to make yourself look beautiful, which is a selfie world right now. Just take a picture of yourself, go to, different Instagrams and different programs, and you try and modify the pictures. So we're going to teach you the technique of doing the modification on your system or your laptop or your computer, the right way of doing it in a higher resolution, which you don't get through your mobile. So this is something which is exclusive the program is going to cover. Besides learning about your cameras, besides learning about photography, we're going to teach you post-processing, which will help you develop your skills. Many people think heavy Photoshop work or heavy Lightroom work is not good. But let me tell you one thing honestly. Basic work is required for every photograph because the cameras cannot read the right colors of what is being portrayed in front of it. So the post-process level is where all the right colors will be brought out through these softwares. If you have a question in your mind, is there a career in this field? Am I going to get a job or am I going to be placed? Do I see a future in photography? Yes, absolutely. The field of photography has grown over the years vastly. Especially in the last 5 years, the way the profession has grown, the way the career has grown is mind-blowing. You name the field, you need a photographer. You name an FMCG, you need a photographer. You name probably an e-commerce like Amazon or Flipkart or any of these sites, you need an in-house photographer. You name any of the IT companies, you need a photographer. You also need an editor in all these, photo editor in all these companies for that matter. So photography also has the version of a full-time job, and it also has a freelance field. So if you are specialized in something and you want to show out your specialization, freelance is the way to go about. You can always set up your own venture or get into it professionally. Start from scratch. Do what you best like doing. We're going to guide you through the right path. We're going to show you the right way through. We're going to help you through, build your own portfolio, start your own profession. So here we are at Ants, the whole family of Ants, ready to welcome you on board. We are looking forward to meeting each and every one of you to help you and guide you. Welcome to Ants. Thank you.